Aries, Ashe. Obatula, Ashe. Nila Hotep, Ashe. Anu, Ashe. Ptah, Ashe. Apollo, Ashe. Da, Ashe. Zaka, Ashe. Shango, Ashe. Makali, Ashe.
It's on, B.
All right. We on?
Yeah, we on.
I am Bobby Hemmitt. I'm here in Brooklyn, New York. Once again, to do a great, what we call the sit-down lecture. And informal, impromptu, we basically just having a discussion. It was more of a seminar, just laid back in a particular way. Adding some meaning or some historical significance to, I guess, biblical stories and other stories that we've grown up with, in the particular aspect of these stories are more mystical more than they were historical. If you believe that Jonah was swallowed by a whale historically, then you basically on the road to mental illness. And so in so many words, that's what happened to our people. By these being mystical stories, there's a great deal of bibliography. There's one called The 101 Bible Myths by Gary Greenberg. Bible Myths and their Parallels by T.W. Doon, a new book out called, about a year or two ago, called Greatest Story Ever Sold. Moses Mystery, Gary Greenberg. All your Gerald Massey works, Ancient Egypt, Light of the World, the last one, Book of the Beginning, second before last, and Natural Genesis, the first book, 6 volumes, or Gerald Massey's lectures, which you can buy about $16 or $17, which is, I think, one of the better synopsis of it, because you can get lost in the actual 6 volumes. Moses and Monotheism, Sigmund Freud.
That's a good one.
Myths and Deceptions of the Bible. There's so many books over the years. Lost Light, Alvin Boyd Kuhn. Who is this King of Glory, Alvin Boyd Kuhn. The Veil of the 3rd Century, Alvin Boyd Kuhn.
Mystery Man in the Bible, Hilton Hotima.
Hilton Hotima, Mystery Man of the Bible. What is it? Mystery Man, what is it?
Mystery Man in the Bible.
Mystery Man in the Bible. He has a lot of them.
16 Crucified.
No, Hilton Hotima.
Percy Gray's 16 Crucified Saved.
Mystery Man in the Bible.
What's the name of it?
Mystery Man in the Bible.
Mystery Man in the Bible, Red Dragon. He has another one called Hidden Symbology. Just Hilton Hotima wrote for years. There's so many books. Evolution, Origin of Christianity, which I think is a bit, Evolution, Origin of Religion, which I think is one of the best books. It's an out-of-print book, been out of print for years, but I think it might be back in print now. Maybe one of the black book companies put it back, but you can also get it from Kessinger, if not. I think it might be in print by Albert Churchward, which was a hell of a book, which was a student of of Gerald Massey. And then of course there's E. Valencia Straighton's book Celestial Ship of the North, which I was instrumental in finding about 10 years ago on a humbug and by mistake, which was also a Masseyite. So there's so many books out that you can get that dismantle this particular aspect of Christianity. Certain books or certain videotapes like The Naked Truth, with Anthony Hill, Jordan Maxwell, and Anthony Hill is on there too. No, some other guy.
I forgot the guy's name.
And also Jordan Maxwell, Ancient Egypt, Light of the World. Books like Echoes from the Old Dark Land, Dr. Charles Finch, and the great Walter Williams books. Historical Origins of Christianity, and the new one is Historical Origins of Islam. Going right along, the great guy, Man, God, and Civilization, John G. Jackson. Christianity Before Christ, John G. Jackson. Pagan Origins of the Christ Myth, John G. Jackson. Oh, it's just so many tapes by Professor John Henry Clark. I even had some good ones, Moses and Akhenaten, one and the same, which leads us to some texts. The new one is used to be The House of the Messiah, talking about the historical evidence of King Tut being a form of Jesus. Later on now it's called Jesus in the House of the Pharaohs, Ahmed Osman. There's another book used to be Moses and Akhenaten, one and the same, but I think it's called now Moses and Akhenaten, Ahmed Osman. Books by Mustafa Gadala. His books, Hidden Wisdom, all types of hidden wisdom of ancient Kemet, as well as his book Tutankhamun, The Living House of the God of the Lord. There's so many books, you see, so many books. Thrice Great Hermes, G.R.S. Mead, Did Jesus Ever Live, G.R.S. Mead. Gnostic Fragments of a Faith Forgotten, G.R.S. Mead. The Nag Hammadi Library, translated by James Robinson. The Gnostic Scriptures, Bentley Layton. The new book, The Gnostic Philosophy by Tobias Turton. Another book he had called The Gnostics. Excellent book, Kurt Rudolph's book, The Gnostics. One of the excerpts from the Nag Hammadi Library, which is The Gospel of Thomas by Harold Bloom. There's so many of these books, and I just wanted to just give the bibliography for people to try to understand, to dismantle these things, and try to understand that one thing, that all these Bible myths and Quran myths and Old Testament myths share the same thread of information with the rest of the world's mythology. So they're not exclusive groups that this thing just came and happened to. There's hundreds of parallels of Jesus and Horus, and hundreds, if not thousands, of Jesus and Krishna. And I can't think of the lady's name, the one that just put out the book, I think the year before last, Greatest Story Ever Sold. But her new one now, she has one out now on Jesus, Krishna, and maybe, I don't know the other, I don't know if she's talking about Horus or either Dionysus. But to give you an example, I'll run down a list of messiahs. There's Dionysus is a Christ figure. Jason is a Christ figure in the Greek mythology. Apollo is a Christ figure in the Greek mythology. Chrysalis is a Christ figure in the Greek mythology. Hercules is a Christ figure in the Greek mythology. I say the Greek mythology because that's the one that basically a lot of the Romans, who basically made Christianity a controlling religion of the state, basically borrowed heavily from the aspect of the Greeks, which we now know have their origins in African mythology. Other messiahs, as you know, Horus has multiple aspects. Khonsu in pre-dynastic aspect. Harakiti, which comes actually out of Ethiopia and later on translated into Atan, but Atan is a double composite figure as at and then Tan. It's a form of the mother Christ syndrome. Atan, Harkidi, Raheru Kahudi, Christ figures, Mithra, Christ figures, Vishnu, East India, Christ figure, Shiva, East India, Christ figure, as you know, Buddha, Christ figure, Abraxas, Gnostic God, Christ figure, the Gnostic Seth, Christ figure, identical with the third son of Adam in the Bible, is where it came from, but even linked to Set Typhon in the Egyptian mythology. Jean Duress, a papyrologist in the 1950s, connected to connection with the Egyptian Seth, the biblical third son of Adam Seth, and the Gnostic Seth. And the Gnostic Seth, which Seth is the only survivor beyond Hemmitt in the later mythologies, because his name is mentioned as one of the patriarch of one of the sons in the Bible. Also in the Bible, there's, I think it's in Matthew, one of those, you have Hermes, which is the Greek form for Tahuti. So Hermes is in there. You get the book, the Tanakh, which is a big, thick version of the Torah. The Tanakh, you will find tons of entities like Horus, forms of Isis or Aset. These things find themselves over and over again, and not to mention not only the gods, but you know there's 16 different forms of Osiris in the Holy Bible that I talked about years in my books. But you can't find it as the Greek Osiris, but you can find it as W-S-A-R in Corinthians, and different ones are Wusar or Usar, and even one of the demons, Uzzah. It's nothing but a form of one of the devils, and later on degraded into Satan in Christianity. Is nothing but a form of Osiris. We have these things, I mean, so in so many words, there's nothing new under the sun, only that which is forgotten. And if you find out that these religions are not exclusive, and in that particular thing, that religions thrive on being these sectarian counterparts that grip people, because the people think that this is a unique and exclusive doctrine that no one else ever had. And as a result, you see, this is why we are separated, and no one ever thought to just study the other people's myths. You see what I'm saying? The other people's myths. And I was talking to Brother Luja today, and I said, you know, I remember I was, when I was at Benedict College down in Columbia, South Carolina, this was in the early 80s, and I used to walk up to they had 5 Points in Columbia, South Carolina, and they used to have a record store down there called Papa Jazz. And I used to go in there, and the white boys up in there, and there was one white guy that was up in there that was getting a PhD in mythology from the University of South Carolina. And I looked at him in my naivety and my youth, and I was like, what? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, a PhD in mythology. I said, you're not going to ever make any money. Well, of course, I didn't know he could probably, even on the money thing, he could get hired by a major university and just teach mythology. But I didn't realize then how serious mythology was until I started studying mythology years later. And mythology is simple, but it's sublime. And it is the only discipline that you never outgrow. You can always read it to the end of your life, and what it meant one year might vary the next year, and the next year, and the next year. The woman Wendy O'Flaherty, who wrote several books, she was the erotic aesthetic, Hindu myths, laws of Manu, dreams, illusions, and other reality, evil in Hindu mythology, and just tons of books. The Rig Veda, one translated, and she said she studied the mythology for 30 years. since she wrote some of her books, and I think she was speaking at this particular time, that was in the 70s, and she was speaking at this particular time in the late 1990s, and said she's gone in and reread these texts, and they mean something totally different than the meanings that she thought when she translated the text in the 1970s for her books. Because we're talking about something that's written from what they call a pre-human intelligence. It's written at a time when we were gods. So therefore these stories and all these things can turn into never-ending parchments of knowledge and illumination for years and years to come. Years and years to come. So the Christians get mad and the Hebrews get mad when you say Hebrew mythology or Christian mythology, in which it is. There's several, and you got several mythology. You have Raphael Patrick, Hebrew goddess, which is Hebrew mythology. You have Hebrew myths, Raphael Patrick and Robert Graves. You know, Robert Graves. There's Christian mythology. Basically all your Gnostic material is Christian mythology. So in so many words, the myths are more advanced than the theologies, because theologists can get to the point that they can get cultural and political. But the mythology, you can have a person that's Native American, and you can have a person that's Eskimo, and then you can have a person that's Asian. And when you study their mythologies, you'll find the basic same motifs. You see, and although they're living on two opposite ends of the world, you go to Africa, you even go to Europe, you see, you go to the Mediterranean, and they have all this mythology from world mythology, and yet they will still have the same basic principles and motifs. So the whole concept here is to get the commonality, and therefore also, and because this is dealing with people that have problems with this thing, therefore you can basically, as a result of understanding the corresponding systems, or get to the bottom of what you really need to get to the bottom of, and don't get stuck in this web of who's wrong and who's right. You know, and just basically, there's an old saying that says, there are those people that study the quilt, and the quilt has patches, and each patch has a design. Each patch has a different fabric. Each patch is sewn together by certain threads of different colors, and you can spend 1,000 years studying the quilt and not even realize that up under the quilt there's an entire bed, and that was just a layer. And so people can study the quilt, or as they say in the black community or popular community, branch knowledge, and never get to the tree. But never decided to turn back the quilt, and there's a whole bed. So the whole concept is there's no religion hiding truth. He who knows one book knows none. You see. And it's unraveling. And what makes sense today will make totally different, might mean something totally different tomorrow. Even as much as last week or last month, I'm finding out things about certain things and getting clearer and clearer on aspects of things. So in that particular case, the mythology or the motifs are very key. So you have John the Baptist. Well, John the Baptist is also in Egypt, Tahuti. And Tahuti is also Anubis, the double Anubis, Hermanubis, because Hermes is the Greek Tahuti. You have Anubis, Hermanubis is one later on resurrected in Greece. But here's Anubis, that's John the Baptist. Then you have Mary and Mary Magdalene. You have Mary and Mary Magdalene. And then and Mary Magdalene rubs the feet of Jesus. But then we have Vishnu, which is the Hindu form of Jesus, has his consort, Lakshmi, which is the form of Mary. And she rubs, this one we have here, rubs the feet of Jesus. You see. So your John the Baptist would also be Hanuman, one that is with the Christ and an aid to Vishnu in Vishnu's incarnation as Rama. You see, as Rama. Another form of the Great Mother is the cat, Sekhmet, which is the Lion of Judah. Later on, turned into a male deity. You see, a male deity. But Sekhmet is the great harlot, so she can be Jezebel. You see, in the Bible. And these mythologies, a lot of times, they're not talking about evil, but they're talking about principles. Because it was interesting when we started going back into ancient Kemet, the first thing the Afrocentric scholars did is to try to compare and line up the characters of the Bible with the characters of ancient Egypt. So the first thing they did is Set became the evil Satan. And I remember years later, me and the teacher, C. Freeman L., was sitting out in Atlanta and was looking at some actual, I think it was the King Tut's sarcophagus book with all the funerary things. And there's a picture of, I think it's King Tut, and there's another picture of the goddess, of the Queen Hatshepsut, and different pictures of the Pharaoh standing in the middle of Horus and Set. And right then he knew, he said, well, we gotta rethink this concept of good and evil when it comes to Horus and Set, and understand that we're talking about polarities. The Horus and Set and the king standing in between them is no different than the yin and the yang sign that you have in Asia, you see. You have Krishna and his dark brother Balarama, you see. So we have the same motifs in this mythology going on and on. So we're going to go into a couple of things today. I'm going to post a little libation and spit, libation and all, and give a great shout out on this one to my Aunt Jane Esther, which is my mother's first cousin. That but down south, if that's my mother's first cousin, that's your aunt. That's based on who made the transition and is very and is very at peace where she is, where she is, and also basically had a grand ceremony for her and other people that will be making the transition. So we'll deal with that, and so we're going to go into these particular questions at this particular time. Feel free to jump in the particular discussion. Shit, I think I will get me a little sip. So get me
yeah, I got
glass.
You got a glass over there?
I get one.
All right.
Good. Yeah. And also, okay. So let's get with these questions and try to unravel some of these things.
All right. First question. Let's start with Genesis. Out of darkness came light.
Well, basically, you have what is called chaos, or Eros, Erebus, different names for it, Ain, and it is talking about the chaos board, or what is called the nothing. From the nothing you get the absolute. That which is nothing is all potential and is everything. The darkness that we're talking about here is just only the light that the human brain cannot comprehend.
Okay.
By being subordinate. You see. So because the human brain does not have the primal origin essence to comprehend it, it appears to be darkness. Now you can break that down to just a regular thought level. Certain things appear as darkness to us when we do not have the aptitude to comprehend it. So in so many words, what we're actually talking about here is a light so bright till it's dark, which is called black light, dark sun. You see. To understand those particular concepts, one is to get a book called Men of Light by Henry Corbin, deals with the black light, or the new book, Pregnant Darkness. What's the name of the person? You got the book?
I got the book right here.
The new book, Pregnant Darkness, by who? It's that Pregnant Darkness, Alchemy and the Birth of Reconsciousness by by Monica Wickman. W-I-K-M-A-N. Monica Wickman. Okay. Did this make this me?
Oh, that's you.
Oh, that's me? Okay. Monica Wickman.
All right, let me see that book again.
Pregnant Darkness by Monica Wickman. Alchemy and the Rebirth of the Consciousness. And she's I noticed in here that she's drawn from Henry Corbin's work, Alone with the Alone, and to talk about the black light. The black light. So what appears dark is only appearing dark to the mundane mind or the human brain, which does not have the makeup or the primal essence to see something in the light. So it's a cheat. So that's but we're still talking about that particular darkness from whence we came. And basically we're talking about something that is outside of a manifestation that is later. Something outside of creation. Doesn't necessarily mean that creation, to create something, it means it's it has to be a end product, or it has to be a secondary product. And in this particular case, the creation is only talking about something that is created itself and has shut out its origin. So that would be universe A, universe B. We're talking about universe B. Universe A being the petty universe, universe B being the worlds to come, which is nothing but the return of the old.
Okay.
Or maybe the return of something that was always there, but we were too new to understand that it was always there because we were too undeveloped. So in so many words, humanity is in the last stages of the teenage years. So in so many words, it's not it's something that is incomplete. It is something that is always coming. The Kabbalistic aspect, they talk about this being incomplete, and when it's completed, it will be called the tikkun, the finished product. You see, but it is something that is always coming. There you get a book on Kabbalah and its symbolism by Gershom Scholem, which also talks about this particular process of humanity not being totally complete. So it's ongoing, it's unfolding. You'll also see that in Alvin Boyd Kuhn's book, Who is This King of Glory? Man is just at the teenage stage and is not completed, not evolved on into adult stage.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But if you understood you in your teenage years, overnight you became an adult. You know, you woke up, it wasn't a gradual thing. You woke up one day and all of a sudden you had pubic hair.
Right.
You know, I can remember wisdom teeth not being there one day and the next day it's there. So we're talking about something that we are on the latter end of a manifestation coming into being. You know, so that darkness is the primal aspect. Primal, why do they say prime evil? And why is the word evil connected with Eve? All of these things we have to ponder.
Okay.
You see, all those things we have to ponder. We can go on for years on the darkness. There's a book called Kabbalistic Concepts by William Gray. He had a great first chapter where he says, write out a list of everything in your mind that you think is nothing. Well, that trash can be nothing, to give you an example. You see what I'm saying? Not pointing to Shabazz floor saying that it's trash. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about the trash can, because this is an apartment, so that's the kitchen over there. So that trash can over there, that's what we're talking about here. I don't want to get the wrong impression. You know, because black people in TV land can take shit the wrong damn way. That Bobby done pointed to Shabazz float and pointed out some trash. No, I'm talking about the trash can over there. So you create a certain amount of things that you might think is nothing. Maybe the lint that picks out of your hair. And after creating a page of what is nothing and adding it all together, it actually becomes something. You see what I'm saying? So there's no such thing as no thing. You see what I'm saying? So that's what these concepts, but the William Gray's book, Kabbalistic Concepts, I think, he talks about that nothing. And tell you to get a work list and create what is nothing. And in so many words, you're bringing forth something by doing this, by pondering the nothing. So in the voodoo, when they talk about the drumming, they say it's not the beats of the drums that is most interesting. It is the space between the drums. So the drums have allowed the space in between it, the silence in between it, to be heard. You ever saw and this is gonna be a good ass tape. I feel the spirit already on this shit. Have you ever was listening to a song and in the middle of this, they used to do it a lot in the 70s. They listen to a song and it's jamming and then they would just stop for a minute and then start back. And it would make it interesting.
Right, that pause.
That pause. And it's just the right pause. You understand what I'm saying? Or I've seen some people dance and then they just freeze all of a sudden.
Right.
And that frozen part is the highlight of the whole dance.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, stop. Hammer time.
Right. Or you see, so these are the concepts. So we are already creating different variations from nothing, from the nothing. So it is the beat in between the drums that's the most interesting.
The sounds.
Right. You see. Or
That's hot.
what you would call a nothing as a mistake could be the right thing. And it wasn't until they had a lot of confusion in the early days of Egyptology, and it wasn't until Faulkner came up and realized, Henry Faulkner, that, oh my goodness, they are purposely building mistakes within the religion, because that is the concept of patterns in the chaos.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Or when they would go to, say, the Greeks have these columns that all look the same, the Greeks and the Romans. When we go to the Egyptian, you have a column that look like this, a column here. They said, what is this crazy shit that the columns are uneven? Until they realized that they were actually copying nature in the marshes and the lotuses in the swamps. Well, there is nothing in nature that is all concise the same way. When it becomes the same cookie cutter way, that is artificial.
Right.
You see, that is artificial. You understand what I'm saying? They were actually, they were actually looking at these things and understanding them and shaking, just like they talked about back in 1983, Thomas Dolby came out with Blinded by Science. He said, why is this song resonating? All, different races is liking it. They said, well, first of all, Thomas Dolby, which later on did the first song for Houdini.
Okay.
That Magic Wand, that was done by, the music was done by Thomas Dolby. And they shipped it over from England, and Houdini rapped behind it.
Okay.
They said that, what's so unique? They said, well, he purposely built in mistakes in the computer or in the synthesizer that when he's playing the song, it will randomly come up. Randomly come up and made a whole, like science, it just popped up out of something.
Get it out of that cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Thing.
And that is what, so that is the chaos, but that's also the nothingness coming into view in the particular aspect that what black people have done, especially being in the United States up from slavery, taking nothing and making something out of it.
Okay. Darkness into the light.
Right. Anywhere from jazz to funk. You see what I'm saying? And even into rap. You see what I'm saying? It's all the same thing. That is the genius of the nothingness, and that is what chaos is. Chaos and also we will say this too, that black people change. We've changed in all our art forms, always leaving shit behind, and white folks picking it up and becoming proficient after it, only after we have left it for years. You know what I'm saying? One thing that sounds so awful now is the blues, period. I mean, it's the same thing over and over. When we did it in the 60s, the 40s, the 20s. You see what I'm saying? And white people still playing the same bars of the blues, and it sounds awful. Even B.B. King sounds awful now. Right. Because it's dead.
Oh,
right,
shit.
right. Been there, done that.
Been there, done that. That's exactly what Miles Davis in the 70s, he said, jazz is dead. Now, jazz at first used to be that which somebody said, well, you can't do that. And they did it. They took something that was nothing and made it into something. And said that when Duke Ellington was in Central Park, he said, I don't have time to go back to school or get no classical training. He said, you know, I got to do this now. And the guy said, well, take everything you learned up to now and throw it out the window and just start new. And just start over. And whatever comes out, that's what it's going to be. You see, they won't even be able to critique it because it's never been done before. You see what I'm saying? But it was new, and then later on it died. And so even Miles Davis, who took it on into the 70s and the late 60s, said this shit is dead. So what did he do?
Bitches Brew?
He got Bitches Brew, and is basically the inventor of fusion. And that became mixed in with funk. You see what I'm saying? And making a new aspect of it. And to this day, the funk is probably more profound than even jazz was, because it was the funk that was the later aspect that is the basis of what the rappers would use. You see what I'm saying? Even down to their beats.
Gotcha.
You see, it is the basis of it.
Right. Found another civilization within
right.
funk.
You see what I'm saying? And the only reason why they will raise up jazz, they will raise up blues, but they won't raise up funk. But see, the funk is a little bit different. The funk, you can't fake it. It's either funky.
Can't fake
the funk. It's either funky or it's a simulation of some shit. You know when a motherfucker is copying. And it might sound a little good at first, but you say, no, it's got that corny shit up in it. You know, it still got a little corniness. It's like that disco.
Like Doobie in Your Funk.
Right. Can you imagine some Doobie in Your Funk? Oh, it was cool. It was cool.
Right.
But can you imagine some Doobie in Your Funk? It's a simulation, you see what I'm saying? But it ain't quite there. Now, yeah, you can do gimmicks, but pound for pound, you understand what I'm saying? It's just like dancing. You know what I'm saying? That's what they say. But, so, here goes again. That's just a brief history of the chaos. Everything, so chaos is the darkness and the light, and change is supreme.
Right, okay.
And also, yeah.